Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyerboxingnews.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let me offer a few post-fight comments on Robert Guerrero's, in his words, beatdown of Andre Berto. But before I do, let me just direct everyone's attention here to some very hard comments made by Freddie Roach, Manny Pacquiao's trainer, about whether or not, in his opinion, Juan Manuel Marquez is taking performance-enhancing drugs. Now, I think everybody needs to follow this storyline because, of course, we know Freddie Roach had one fighter who, during his career, tested positive for PEDs, James Toney. And we also know that Freddie Roach's prized pupil, Manny Pacquiao, sued Floyd Mayweather because, in Manny Pacquiao's opinion, the defendants hinted or suggested that Manny Pacquiao was using performance-enhancing drugs. Right? Now, I will say this. It's unusual for any athlete in his late 30s to suddenly look to have increased muscle mass and musculature that he didn't have when he was in his 20s or his early 30s. Also, let's track the comments being made. Both Manny Pacquiao and Marquez are talking about winning this fight by stoppage. Right? And, of course, I'm not going to name names here, but there are some trainers in the background who, let's just say, have been viewed as controversial in the past. So you definitely want to take a hard look. Also, what I want you to do for both fighters is to listen to how they deny using performance-enhancing drugs. Understand a blanket denial, such as, I have never taken performance-enhancing drugs, is much stronger than a qualified denial, such as, I've never taken performance-enhancing drugs to my knowledge. Or, my favorite, I have never tested positive for taking performance-enhancing drugs. Right? Take a hard look at that fight. Take a hard look at the rhetoric between the trainers involved in that fight. Obviously, there seems to be a lot of accusations going back and forth between the two Hall of Fame camps. Okay? Let's talk about Berto and Guerrero. In a pre-fight video, I said that this fight really came down to which Robert Guerrero showed up. I said that if it was Guerrero at his best, he was going to win the fight, but that Guerrero in his last fight was getting tagged by too many shots. That last fight was against Selka Gaden before this one. Right? Well, what you saw, and I think it's a pretty significant fight. I think it's really a must-see fight for all of us on YouTube who talk about boxing. Because to me, what you saw was two different levels of fighters. Right? One, great athlete. Explosive punching. Explosive hand speed. Right? Has really gotten the more dramatic knockouts in his career. Right? Is a guy who, quite frankly, when the bullets are flying and he starts landing leather, can knock you out with either hand. And, of course, when he was an amateur, beat some of the biggest names in the sport. That's Andre Berto. But understand, being an athlete and having explosive punching power and having hand speed, being able to fight in bursts, that's very different than technique. Right? And what you saw really was a multifaceted technician, Robert Guerrero, who, quite frankly, was fighting a different game. He's not in there relying on physical attributes. He's in there figuring out angles. Right? He has plan A, plan B, plan C. He's the guy who, if he's outside, can hurt you with left hands, which is what he did to Berto early. If he's inside, he can hurt you with whatever hand he has free. And I know on tape it looks random. It looks like he's inside and Berto happens to grab one hand and he's hitting Berto with the other hand. But understand, it's by design. Because when he's inside, Robert Guerrero makes certain that you're going to have a hard time tying him up. Right? And so I thought it was fascinating because I thought between these two guys, only one guy could fight inside. And that was Robert Guerrero. Right? That's the story of the fight. When Robert Guerrero is inside, he always has at least one hand free. Always. He's able to hit Berto. Think about it now. Right? Think about what it takes to fight inside. When Robert Guerrero is inside on Andre Berto, and keep in mind, Berto has knocked out many men with headshots. Robert Guerrero knew when he was inside that Andre Berto couldn't hit him in the head inside. So Robert Guerrero is actually able to hit Berto to the body. Think about it. While he's doing body work inside, if Berto were able to come up top with a hard, short punch, he could have hit Guerrero in the head several times. But understand what technicians do. Guerrero figured out that Andre Berto couldn't hit him to the head inside. He understood at certain angles he could leave his head unprotected. At certain angles, he had free shots on Berto's body. Right? He knew that if Berto grabbed one hand, he could keep the other hand leaned back across his body so Berto couldn't tie him up. Now, Andre Berto, as many people do, Alan Green after the Andre Ward fight, still one of my favorite fights, Andre Berto complained in the post-fight interview. Said, hey, how could the ref allow all of this? Now, I'll agree there were some roughhouse tactics going on, right? Guerrero at one point actually holds Berto's head while he punches him. Definitely were some roughhouse tactics going on. But understand everything that Guerrero did inside, where he's leaning on Berto and has Berto up against the ropes and he's working Berto's body and he keeps a hand free. In my opinion, that was all legal. Right? To those who can't fight inside, who can throw with great power but need space to do it. You've heard me use terms in other videos like mid-range hooker. Right? For guys who need space to throw hard shots, who don't know what to do when a guy's on their chest, hitting them to the body with their free hand, it seems like dirty fighting. But really, all it is inside fighting. And the guys who know how to fight inside, right? I can think of two big-time talents who have literally dominated fights inside. Andre Ward and Bernard Hopkins. For the guys who know how to fight inside, it's easy pickings. They view you as an eggshell. They just move inside of your danger zone. It's just like having an umbrella. They just get out of the rain and get too close to you. And then know that inside, you can't get the leverage on your punches. Right? And so, to me, what this Guerrero-Berto fight proved was that Andre Berto isn't ready to fight a technician who can take that extra step and handle him inside. In other words, I keep mentioning his name because the guy's game is that complete. A Floyd Mayweather would clobber Andre Berto because, quite frankly, Mayweather would allow Berto to run into his shoulder, and Mayweather would know that up close, only Floyd would be able to throw punches with bad intentions. Right? He would also know that Berto, quite frankly, doesn't have a great game when he's up on the ropes. Right? Berto might look like Broner and Floyd when he's up on the ropes. There's a difference. Right? Look at a Adrian Broner tape when he's up on the ropes. You're going to see Broner actually has you on his shoulder, and he's hitting you with the other hand, and you can't hit him to the body because he's covered up. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather, right? You have withering body punchers like Miguel Cotto who fight Floyd Mayweather. They get Floyd up on the ropes. If there's anyone who knows how to throw a left hand to the body in the sport, it's Miguel Cotto, right? And all I'm saying is there is Floyd, round after round after round, not only surviving the rounds, but winning the rounds, right? And not going down like Andre Berto did multiple times in this fight, right? And so let me just say, Guerrero, technician at the high end of the sport, in my opinion, where everyone has athletic skills. In my opinion, it's the technicians who rule the day, especially in chess matches. Right? Great athletes who don't have inside games. And I mentioned before the fight too that Berto, quite frankly, had been outboxed in some fights. I'm still a skeptic on that first Collazo fight. The Cosme Rivera fight, if you're an Andre Berto fan, you need to look at that film footage. Right? Andre Berto is a guy who overpowers you. If you can make the fight a tactical fight where technique matters, a guy like Andre Berto has problems. Robert Guerrero is rarely within Andre Berto's punch range. Right? Guerrero makes certain, too, that he's able to get inside and work Berto's body. As banged up as Berto's eyes were, understand, Robert Guerrero actually was working over Berto's body. Let me also point out that early, I thought it was masterful. Andre Berto comes out, and he has an Adrian Broner type left shoulder elevated, right? He may have looked like Broner. He's not Broner, right? Understand, learning new defensive shells takes years. I can't, in my mid to late 20s, show up in one training camp knowing that I'm facing one of the sport's best in my next fight, Robert Guerrero, right? A technician. And then decide, after looking at Adrian Broner tapes, that I can do the same thing Adrian Broner's doing. Understand, Broner has been doing what he does for years, right? You're looking at the end of Broner's work, right? It's like looking at the Mona Lisa, right? Understanding that Picasso took years to get to that level of talent, to put that masterpiece on canvas, right? Here, you have Andre Berto. He comes out. It's new for him. He has an elevated left shoulder. Here's the difference between him and Adrian Broner, right? Robert Guerrero is able to just move to the side, and he's able to hit Berto early, first and second round, when Berto's on the canvas, with left hands. Right? Guerrero, again, this is the definition of adaptive reactive. Berto comes out with a new defensive shell. Guerrero says, okay, makes the adjustment. How long does it take him to do it? Immediately. He makes the adjustment in the first round. Berto has no plan B. Berto's getting hit with left hands. Guerrero's changing the angle. He's already by the shoulder. Berto's getting hit with bombs in the first round. Also understand, Broner has his shoulder up. When you come in on Broner, and I've said this in too many videos, if Broner's in the middle of the ring, Broner doesn't have to take a step back unless he wants to. Right? Broner will keep you on the left shoulder. You'll run into the left shoulder. Look at the DeMarco film. You'll run into the left shoulder. Broner, even when you're bull rushing him, if he wants to stand his ground in the middle of the ring, he will. Now, what I want you to do in this fight is I want you to take out your watch. Start the fight. Look on your watch and see how long it takes Robert Guerrero to get Andre Berto up against the ropes. And let me point out, when Andre Berto's up against the ropes, he's not Broner. He's not Floyd Mayweather. This is a guy getting hit and battered up on the ropes, right? He goes down twice for a reason. Neither of him being on the canvas. Neither of those occasions is a slip. Let me also point out that by the end of the second round, Andre Berto has one eye that's practically closed. Right? And so all I'm saying is think about all the times you've seen Adrian Broner. Think about all the times you've seen Floyd Mayweather. Have you ever seen either guy look as beaten up as Andre Berto did in this fight? That's because those guys, quite frankly, don't get hit that much. About as bad as it's gotten for Floyd recently was the Miguel Cotto fight, where Cotto did puff up Floyd's face a little bit. But compare and contrast Floyd after 12 rounds with Cotto. And keep in mind, they didn't fight at 147, they fought at 154. Compare and contrast how Floyd looked to how Andre Berto looked. To sum up, Berto's a great athlete with explosive punching power. He's not a technician. He can't fight inside. Might look like Broner at the beginning of the fight. That goes away once the other fighter makes adjustments. Unfortunately for Andre Berto, he doesn't make adjustments. Right? And so while Berto did win several rounds in this fight, I didn't think the fight was that close. Certainly every time these two guys got close to each other, it was a mismatch. Because Guerrero can fight inside and Andre Berto cannot. Just keep in mind, very few guys in the sport can fight inside. Let me close with this. And I've read the post-fight Ricky Hatton comments to my video. Many people are saying, oh my goodness, how can you say that Ricky Hatton is still world class? Well, besides the fact that all three judges, forget my opinion right after the fight, all three judges at the time of the stoppage had Ricky Hatton winning the fight. And of course, Hatton is fighting a guy who literally just lost his title. Right? All three judges have Ricky Hatton winning the fight, and we're talking about late in that fight. All three have Ricky Hatton winning the fight. More importantly, though, Ricky Hatton, as we know from the Costa Tszyu fight, can fight inside. In fact, Ricky Hatton can live inside. Ricky Hatton knows what to do with his free hand when he gets inside and you're grabbing his other one like Andre Berto grabbed Robert Guerrero's. And so my point to you is this. Given that so many elite fighters, like Andre Berto, can't fight inside, and also given that Ricky Hatton has already beaten one of the champions at 147, Paulie Malignaggi, why do we feel that Ricky Hatton wouldn't be able to be ahead in the 8th round against one of these other elite 147s? I mean, understand, the guys Ricky Hatton has lost to, Floyd Mayweather, A+ all-round game, arguably the sport's best pound for pound, Manny Pacquiao. Who has the hand speed Manny Pacquiao has? These are outlier guys. Now, Shinchenko, I'll just say this. He did stop Ricky Hatton. But what I want you to do is to look at Ricky Hatton 5 seconds before that knockdown. 5 seconds before. And ask yourself, is Ricky Hatton dazed? Is Ricky Hatton confused? Is Ricky Hatton beaten up where he's on his back foot? No, Ricky Hatton was winning that fight. Then Ricky Hatton got hit with a great liver punch and couldn't recover for 10 seconds. Ricky Hatton's completely lucid. Ricky Hatton gives a post-fight interview, right? All I'm saying is liver punches are what they are. I would say Oscar De La Hoya wasn't washed up after he got stopped on a liver punch by Bernard Hopkins, right? Sometimes you just get hit with the right punch. Let me also point out, and I know many people are saying, that Ricky Hatton said that he had been hit with that punch earlier in the fight. All I'm saying is 5 seconds before Ricky Hatton goes down off a liver punch, were you, the viewer, really worried about Ricky Hatton's body? I'll tell you what, I was more worried about Andre Berto's body in this Robert Guerrero fight than I was Ricky Hatton's body. As I watched the Shevchenko fight, never crossed my mind that Shevchenko was working Ricky Hatton's body over. I didn't see it. Right? What I saw was Ricky Hatton. Again, it's Ricky Hatton. He's going to drop his hands. He's going to try to dodge. He wasn't throwing a lot of jabs on the way in. I saw Ricky Hatton getting tagged on the way in. But understand, that's who Ricky Hatton is. Go back before Ricky Hatton's layoff and look at what Floyd Mayweather does to Ricky Hatton on the way in. Understand, that fight really is over after Floyd throws a check left hook as Ricky Hatton jumps in, and of course, even there you'll see Ricky Hatton doesn't have his hands up. And so my point is, yeah, Ricky Hatton's getting tagged on the way in. That's Ricky Hatton, right? Also, as for the stoppage in the fight, all I'm saying is, that's really a one-punch stoppage. So what you have to ask yourself is, if Ricky Hatton were to fight Andre Berto, don't get me wrong, Berto hits hard. If Berto catches him on the way in, Ricky Hatton gets stopped. But you need to think about the alternative. What if Ricky Hatton gets inside on Andre Berto early in the fight like Robert Guerrero did? What if he ends up with Berto up on the ropes early in the fight like Robert Guerrero did? Right? You really have to ask yourself, would Berto be able to withstand that assault? If the answer's unclear and ambiguous, then Ricky Hatton, quite frankly, is still viable at 147 pounds because Andre Berto is one of the stars at 147, and because, of course, that's the talent level we're talking about. The Bertos, the Guerreros, everybody else, Malignaggi, and stuff like that. So, let me hear from you. Leave more post-fight Ricky Hatton comments. Let me know what you think about Hatton possibly against an Andre Berto, or Hatton against a Malignaggi who he's already beaten. Right? I understand Hatton might stay retired because his woman doesn't want him in the ring, and I'm sure Ricky is thinking about himself, his life, his relationship, his family. Fair enough. He's in his 30s. If he doesn't need the money, he doesn't need the money. But all I'm saying is, please, the Ricky Hatton is washed up group out there, rewatch the fight, right? Ask yourself, if Ricky Hatton is losing that fight, how come not a single judge has him losing the fight at the time of the stoppage? How come one of the judges has Hatton comfortably ahead, even factoring in the knockdown, right? Which would have changed a couple of the scorecards. 10-8 on two of the scorecards would have flipped them. But understand, if Ricky Hatton comes out in that last round and looks good, he could have flipped things back, right? And this is against, of course, a ranked fighter who just had the belt after a 3.5-year layoff. Let me hear from you. Thanks for stopping by.